Hello everyone, welcome to my new series called Know the Opening. Today we're going to be looking at the Nimzo Indian Defense. It's a black repertoire piece against d4 from white. I've been playing it for about 2 years now, and I used to be a Queen's Gambit declined player. And I feel like this just gives me a little bit more dynamic play and more variations, many more positional opportunities, and it's just more fun to play. So because I'm having fun with it, I feel like I'm maybe playing it a little better. I actually used to be strictly d4 d5, and in a tournament long ago I was on the wrong side of a Nimzo with the white pieces, and I just did not know how to play it correctly and just got whooped, and decided that I was going to take a look and see what was that guy doing and what was that all about. So that's what led me down the path to the Nimzo. So, always be learning, always be willing to learn from your mistakes. And, I'm actually grateful for that game that I got whooped, because it gave me a new opening to enjoy, honestly. So today we'll look at the opening moves that get us into the Nimzo. We'll look at one reply from white in an effort to keep the video shorter and the content a little bit, not so much that we have to process in one sitting. I'll make subsequent videos for the other possible replies from white and those variations, but for today, one reply from white is all we're going to look at. And then I have a game that I recently played online where the exact strategy that I'm going to show you today, I was able to implement. My opponent played into these lines. So we'll take a look at that. So the Nimzo Indian Defense starts with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, and bishop b4. And this is the Nimzo Indian Defense. Unlike a Queen's Gambit declined, where we're matching the pawn in the center like d4, d5, we are still controlling the center, but on the flank here by restricting this knight's movement and taking these squares in the center away from his ability to defend them. So, like I said, there are many ways that white can play here, but today we're going to look at the move a3, which is just basically asking the question to the bishop, what are you doing there? Are you taking this knight? Or are you running away? What are you doing, right? So I'm going to suggest that we take the knight, and for a couple reasons. One thing you definitely don't want to do if you're going to run away is don't run away here trying to keep the pin, because you're going to run into this, and eventually that bishop is toast. So we don't want that. People that do retreat will play bishop e7, but again, like I said, what we're looking at here today is bishop capturing the knight on c3, and white recaptures with the pawn and creates two weaknesses in his camp early on in the game. So what we've essentially done with this philosophy is we've traded off our bishop pair, and as a result, we've created two weaknesses in white's camp, the c4 pawn and the c3 pawn, both of which not only are doubled up on the c-file, but they are completely unprotected right now. So my suggestion is to go ahead and exploit those weaknesses and attack them immediately. One thing to keep in mind is it's very early in the game and we don't know what the pawn structure is going to look like, so we don't know if we're going to have a closed center or an open center. If it's a closed center, we obviously would like to have our knights. If it's a wide open board, then your bishops are much better pieces. So my suggestion is b6 here, and a lot of people normally play this so that they can fianchetto the bishop, get it on the long diagonal, and that is a wonderful way to play. It's a wonderful piece there. But today we're focusing on this c4 weakness, right? So white has a few ways to play here. One of the moves is f3, and that looks like an awful move in a lot of ways, but he can't play e4 and he wants to play e4. So because the knight on c3 is gone, he needs to play f3 in order to get e4 in, and then he can develop his pieces on the king side and get castled. So we play bishop a6, attacking the c4 pawn, and white has to figure out what to do, how to defend this pawn. Well, the easiest way is he already prepared e4, so he might as well push it into the center. It's accomplishing three things. It's a great move in my opinion. He's taking more space up in the center. He's developed his bishop, and he's also defended the c4 pawn with the bishop's new ability to get out there. So knight c6, we're just continuing our idea of going after this weakness. We want to bring the knight over here. Usually knight on the rim is dim, but in this case we're attacking this weakness. So if he pushes e5, this looks really annoying, but you're fine with just retreating this knight. You still have your plan going. Bishop d3 develops. The reason it goes to d3 is e2, he's going to need that square for the knight so he can get castled. That's still his objective, and our objective is c4. So knight a5. Now we've got 2 attackers to his 1 defender. So queen a4 gets the queen out there into the game and also defends the pawn. And now this next move might seem a little odd, but I'll explain it. So queen c8. The basic idea here is we want to push c5, and we're hoping to exchange the c and d pawn to open up the ability for the queen to come into this mix and become another attacker, right? So knight e2, and we'll go ahead and push our e5, and after he takes, in this position, all we have to do is recapture with the queen, and you'll see that that pawn is going to fall on c4 in one way, shape, or form. So one thing I want to show here in this position after queen c8 is white does have the ability to play another move besides just developing, and that is bishop e4, threatening the rook. You can still take this pawn and go down the exchange. So if you captures, right? If he wants to develop that knight, you can take away his right to castle, and with the queen still on the board, this seems a little dangerous, and I don't know, I feel like I'm willing to play this position with black. Even though we're down the exchange, I don't know, I like it. Okay, so let's go back, and instead of f3 here, right, so we play our b6 move, preparing to bring the bishop out and the knight out to attack the c4 pawn. One other move you might see is knight f3. Pretty logical move, developing, center control. We just continue in the same way. He's going to play e3 instead of e4 here. We just continue in the same way. Bishop d3 again, getting ready to castle. We go ahead and put the knight here again, attacking this pawn. If he decides to protect the pawn by advancing the knight, this is not good for white, because all we have to do is play d6, kick this knight out, and we've won the pawn. And play could continue with some exchanges, and in this situation, after both sides castle, I think this is Gucci for black. Up a pawn, yeah, I'm just super comfy, happy to take this position all the time. So that's basically it as far as what I wanted to show you today. So if your opponent plays a3, take the knight. There are other cases that we'll see that we will not be taking the knight right away. And the basic idea with the Nimzo is if you're not forced to take the knight and break the pin, then don't. You know, you can do other things and advance your position. And we'll see those in later videos. So once again, just to recap the opening lines: d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, the Nimzo Indian Defense. So let's take a look at a game that I recently played that employed this exact strategy. My opponent played d4, we found ourselves in the Nimzo, and my opponent immediately played a3, asking me what I was doing, and I was taking. So yeah, I'm going to go after that c4 pawn. So I play b6, he plays the knight f3 move, bishop out, e3, knight c6, bishop e2. This is all very similar to what we just looked at. So I continue with my plan of attacking c4 with knight a5. In this case, my opponent plays the knight back to protect the pawn, which is obviously much better because we saw when he advances the knight, we can play d6 and win the pawn outright. So now he's got it defended. And again, I think an important thing to realize here is that even though it's not the exact lines that we looked at before, where the queen was on a4 defending, it's still about the c4 square, right? It's a different piece covering it. There's still two pieces attacking, two pieces defending. Chess is a bunch of mini games, and right now the game that's being played is for c4. Everything is about c4 at the moment, right? Queen c8, preparing my c5 pawn push. He castles. I push c5. Now he brings the queen out. And here I'm feeling pretty good. So all I have to do is exchange the pawns. I play c takes d, d takes c, and now I've got 3 attackers, 3 defenders. I'm doing pretty well right now as far as my initiative on attacking the weakness in white's camp. So in this position, what I would love to play is d5, right? If I could push this without being in check, this is, you know, I'm going to win that pawn very soon. So I can't do that because that's illegal. So castle. And it is in this position here that I think the pressure of c4 and why I like this strategy so much was it. I should say this was a blitz game, right? So we were playing fairly quickly, but you know, my opponent needed to play fairly correctly to find a way to not just be down a pawn, and in doing so he pushed this pawn, and I see what he was trying to do to remove the b6 pawn to take the knight with the queen and also get rid of this whole problem that he has with the c4 pawn, but unfortunately he hung his bishop here. Yeah, it's just a lot of pressure there, and I think all of that, just that one simple strategy of focusing on c4 won me the game because my opponent resigned here. So something to keep in mind. I hope you enjoyed this video very much. I hope the Nimzo is something that you continue to look into. I hope you learn more about it with me. I hope you like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks.